As I said, 11 September 2022, while we got these irritating CW messages coming through on the radios. Let's hear who's out there for this week's check-ins. ZS6 IPS standing by. Okay, let's acknowledge ZS6 SNY, and I've also got ZS6 GRG, who is on Zoom. Let's hear, is there anybody else out there for this week's check-in? ZS6 IPS standing by. Okay, 1903, ZS6 IPS still standing by for this week's check-ins. Yeah, I added extra LEDs at the top here just to get some more light on my green screen, and that's why. But I mean, the quality's come up quite a bit, eh? Okay, 1904, second last call for check-ins. ZS6 IPS standing by. Okay, 1905. Let's see if there's anybody else out there. This is last call for check-ins, ZS6 IPS. Okay, nothing else heard. Let's get started. As I said, it is Sunday, 11 September 2022. The time is now 19:05 hours. And that, of course, is Central African time. So GMT +2. Greetings to one and all, and welcome to this week's Weekly Net. This is ZS6 IPS, just reminding everybody that this net is broadcast every Sunday evening at 1900 on the Roodepoort repeater, and is also broadcast via Zoom for any other interested parties who would like to join in. Everyone is welcome to join in and to participate either via Zoom or via the Roodepoort repeater on 625. And of course, I'd like to remind all the listeners out there who have not checked in that you do not need to be a member of any group or club to check in or to use the repeater or any of the radio amateur bands. All that is required from you is that you have a valid amateur radio license which grants you the right to use the bands at any time without acquiring permission from anyone else. Okay, ZS6 OPS returning. Everyone is welcome, as I said, to join via Zoom, and it is the net is not only for the benefit of radio amateurs, but also for the disaster relief CERT volunteers, and of course anybody else that has an interest in participating. Now, COVID-19 this week has actually been a little bit of another concerning week as far as I'm concerned. The global figures are standing at 608,418,272 compared to last week 604,000. That's of the reported new cases. This equates to an increase of 4,348,000. And when we compare that to the previous week's figures compared to well, over the previous 7 days, that was only a 3.4 million. So this week we have seen an additional increase in 1 million cases compared to the increase of 3.4 last week. I must remind the listeners that several of the countries have adjusted their testing and their reporting protocols, and of course South Africa is one of those countries. The death toll globally is now at 6,513,973 compared to 6,494,000. This is only a total of 19,000 new deaths having been reported globally. Again, a significant increase in the number of deaths compared to the previous increase of 8,702. 712. So 8,712 deaths reported as an increase in the previous week. This week we see 19,000 being reported. South Africa's national figures, on the other hand, have also seen an increase in new cases. Actually, it's a decrease to be quite true and correct. Week 34, the testing summary, which are ultimately now, week 35, which actually ended on the 7th of September, we have seen a total of 1,262 cases, new cases, compared to 1,279. That was in actual fact a decrease of 17 cases. ZS6 OPS returning. The death toll, South Africa globally, nationally, I should say, this week reported 21 deaths compared to the previous week of 24. Again, that was a decrease of 3 deaths. Monkeypox is still on an increase globally, now standing at 57,661. With that's a total of 4,241 new cases that have been reported globally. So fortunately, we can say that monkeypox is not producing high number of new cases on a weekly basis, as we originally saw with COVID-19 at the beginning of 2020 in particular. And of course, which continued throughout 2021 and only saw some change in 2022. Now, Pakistan, if I just have a look at what's going on in Pakistan, Pakistan is still reeling and trying to recover from the flooding of the previous week. They still have monsoons taking place. They have still got many hundreds of thousands of people that are displaced, houses destroyed, roads destroyed. So they are in for a rather difficult time over the coming months. And of course, they will now be going into the winter months as well, which is going to make food distribution even more difficult, especially with the roadways, etc., having been destroyed during the flooding itself. Outside of that, when we start talking about flooding, for those of you that are listening and do not know, but a little town outside of Bloemfontein called Jagerfontein or Jagefontein, whichever way you pronounce it. I don't know how to do it. One of the mining dams actually decided to break its banks, collapse, and has in actual fact flooded the entire area out. As I have reported on the disaster relief general chat group for CERT. Yeah, many of the EMS and other services were involved. One person at about 10:30 this morning was missing and 7 were rescued. However, those figures did in actual fact change during the course of the day. And I think at the moment, 40 people were admitted to various hospitals with various injuries, and 3 people had lost their lives during the initial dam wall burst, or burst of the dam wall. ZS6 OPS returning. As a result of this, from the immediate onset of the disaster and this mass event or large-scale emergency from occurring, residents of the town were in actual fact ordered to evacuate. And I think that the early evacuation in actual fact has saved many more lives, and fortunately no more deaths have been reported. I know search and rescue are busy looking for a couple of people that are missing, so we will have to wait and see what the final outcome of that is going to be. However, there has been quite a number of houses destroyed, totally destroyed, funny enough, so there will be a few people that are in need of accommodation and shelter at this stage. Okay, ZS6 OPS returning. That being said, there's not much more for me to report on. I don't know if George or Adrian would like to add anything. Adrian is shaking his head. George isn't in the fridge, but he's giving me a thumbs up. He's good to go. You see, that's the way you do it. You listen to the net, you keep up to date, you get all the current information. And of course, you don't need to sit in front of your radio. You can walk around and do other things, which is beautiful. So let's see, is there anybody else out there that would like to join the net this evening and be added to the check-ins? ZS6 OPS is standing by. Okay, nothing else heard, no further check-ins, all the rest of it. On that note, I'd like to thank Adrian and George, and of course, I better be polite because I am on amateur radio, and of course, I'd like to thank all of you listeners out there who are too scared, too chicken, too intimidated or otherwise to actually call in and check in for listening. But at least you were there and you have listened, and not much that you could have learned tonight except for the fact that COVID is not over. And because this pandemic isn't over, I would be reckless if I did not say, guys, please, if you are going to visit people, especially the elderly, those who in actual fact may suffer a serious illness if they do contract COVID-19, rather just physically distance yourself from them. You can see them, but, keep 1.5 meters, 2 meters apart, no physical contact, wash your hands or sanitize your hands on a regular basis, and wear a mask in their presence to protect them. That being said, I'd like to say for the next week, be safe, be prepared, and of course, be happy. This is ZS6 OPS releasing 145.65 for general use. Cheers all.